everybody hear me? Y'all need me to jump on stage? I can. So hey everybody, I'm Marty McNair from the Jordan McNair Foundation. And thanks to the Falcons crew for having me once again. Interesting thing, let me tell you really quick. Anybody know how many high school student athletes are in high school registered to play high school sports right now? Anybody? 8 million. 8 million, and probably with the research or with the surgence of girls flag football, that probably added another 2 to 3 million. Literally, that was just last year. And you have in high school, you have 21,000 high schools across the nation. They fall into two categories: those who have resources versus those that don't have resources. Meaning, a school like Loudon's with an indoor facility and all this different type of stuff, that ain't the way it is all over the world, all over the country. Take my word for it. A lot of times you may have, the facilities may not be as adequate or elaborate as they are here. Nothing against Georgia schools, but we move around and we see a lot of stuff. So some schools you may not have an athletic trainer. You know, you may have the school police officer doubling down as the basketball coach or the football coach. So again, that's how basically America is really broke down. 8 million student athletes, 21,000 high schools, resources, those that don't have resources. So I'm Marty McNair from the Jordan McNair Foundation, and my son Jordan passed from a heat stroke in 2018 at the University of Maryland on his sophomore year, very first day of conditioning drills. They were running gases the very first day. Unfortunately, he was in distress. He started to exhibit signs of heat exhaustion. Unfortunately, the athletic trainers on the field didn't recognize it, unfortunately, until it was too late. By the time they got Jordan to the hospital, an hour and 37 minutes, he had a core body temperature of 106 degrees. He woke up a healthy kid Tuesday morning. We got an emergency liver transplant Friday morning. So you can imagine, as a parent, I had no clue, right? I had no clue. Coaches talked about parents. I asked 2 questions while the coaches from the University of Maryland were sitting at our kitchen table. Can we get some playing time, number 1? And I asked something around mental health and substance abuse. That was in 2016. Who thinks what could go wrong? You send your child away to a Division I college, and last thing you want is somebody calling you, telling you it's been an incident on the field. So that's our story. Jordan passed on June 13, 2018. I had 2 options. I could go into this rabbit hole of depression and despair for losing my only child, or I could make a difference or change some of the stuff. I didn't know any statistics. I didn't know anything. However, one thing I used to ask myself when I would walk down this long hallway while he was in the hospital fighting for his life was, I missed something. What did I miss? And if I don't know these things about just a heat-related injury, how many other parents in America don't know? And that's really fueled us. Here we are, June 16th of a couple weeks ago, it's been our 7th year. And we partner with great organizations like the Atlanta Falcons, and we go around the country basically doing education to parents, coaches, and most importantly, student athletes as well. So, all right, so one of the big things that we tell coaches all the time, and especially we got a different type of kid now, culture eats strategy for breakfast. If you're just talking about L's and W's, you ain't going, not nowadays. Nowadays, we gotta create partnerships with young people. We gotta be in tune with their emotions. We gotta be in tune with their feelings. And most importantly, we gotta be in tune with giving them a voice. If nothing else, we gotta listen to our young people in this one. And the more that we care, the more that they feel that we care about them, we'll always get a better result from them. I was just at a clinic in Pennsylvania Thursday, right? This guy, Ron Johnson, one of our partners from the Rising Star Football Clinics. Ron, they just started Girls Flag this year, right? I'm gonna tell you how powerful Girls Flag football is. Had about 80 girls there that registered, but you had 20 kids that came from brought their team from Hawaii. And Millersville University is in the middle, up in Reading, Pennsylvania, Amish country, cornfields. They came from Hawaii to cornfields. That's the power of Girls Flag football right now. I'm even amazed at it sometimes. So creating that culture where mental health, emotional and physical health, as well as safety is prioritized, it mitigates risk, it earns trust and respect from parents, and maintains the health and wellness of athletes. The team that had the healthiest players on the field usually are victorious most of the time, and at least will have a competitive edge over their opponent. Show of hands. How many of you all know what an emergency action plan is? Okay. The ones that didn't raise their hand, have you ever been to fire drill? Raise your hands. That's an emergency action plan. Simple as that. An EAP is a fire drill. However, the potential for a fire in our space or in our world can happen just like that. Every time we walk on the field, something can happen. And our best bet, if we're preventively prepared, we'll always be ready when something does happen. If we're prepared, great. If something happens, we're prepared. If something don't happen, guess what? We're still prepared. So we're always in position, and that's really our goal with this particular training. Oh man, I covered all that. So the main thing that I really try to focus with parents and coaches, always have an end of mindset. Meaning, something is going to happen. The potential for something is going to happen. Really quick question. Show of hands. Any medical professionals in the room? Doctors, nurses? Got it. Most parents think you are. Parents think that you all are medical professionals. Something happened to their child, it's going to be you, coach, that should have saved it. That's how we think, because that's the way I thought. My son had a lot of opportunities, went to a private school with an equestrian farm, and he was on the side with resources. But as a parent, nobody never introduced me to who was it that was going to save my child. They had athletic trainers. I didn't know what an athletic trainer was at the college level until I walked into the ER. Now I want to ask questions. See my point? I only asked two questions while they were at our kitchen table. So a goal is to really emphasize the parents. Start asking questions. Coaches are not medical professionals. I was at a girls' flag football clinic, University of Maryland, less than 2 weeks ago. It was that was a big group that day. And it was 3 coaches in the stands with the parents. And I asked, how many coaches in here? 3 hands went up. Any of y'all ever went to medical school? Nobody's hand went up. But parents think that. So in our position, let's be very mindful. Any of you all at the youth level or everybody's high school? Youth. Get them parents involved. Get them involved. The more educated that we all are, the safer all our kids will be. Okay, as I mentioned, it's EAP is an outline of information. Who's going to do what when in the event of a situation happens. We always need to be prepared. So when you say who's going to do what, we'll call 911. Most parents, when you call 911, y'all at the youth space, right? Something happens. What park do you work out of or practice out of?
Freelance.
Okay, great. Even freelancing. Okay, you may be at this park this week, that park next week. If something happens, kid goes down, what's the protocol? And I'm not singling you out, but.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Okay. What's your protocol?
So I would call 911.
And say what?
I have a student of mine that I'm training that went down. I would try to look for signs like sweat.
What's the address?
Heart rate.
What's the address? What field you on?
It could be McCray Park.
What field you on? What's the number of the field? What's the entrance? See my point?
Yeah.
Everybody see my point? But we don't think like that. When something happens, 17 minutes can seem like 34 minutes. So again, what's your name? Janadia. Got it. Thank you for being a good sport. But that's the goal.
Yeah.
Really, we need to think about these things in the event of. Because on the other end of the phone, we just can't say, hey, I think a kid went down. No, a kid went down, they're not breathing. Because that's going to make the difference between who they send out to respond. Are they going to send an EMT basic that can only stabilize to wait for an EMT paramedic to get there, time to steady ticking? Or are they going to see an EMT paramedic? Okay, they can stabilize the transport at that point. But again, we don't really think of these things when it happens like that. Always know what your emergency action plan is. Have a pre-game huddle. Who's going to do what? Somebody's going to call 911. Somebody's going to call a parent. Somebody's going to do this. Somebody's going to do crowd control. Somebody's going to go open the gate or meet the EMTs at the entrance. If something happened right now, we just can't assume, we in the auditorium. Where? Somebody got to go out there and wave the folks in to say where exactly we are. But again, this is the mindset that we need to have when we focus on an emergency action plan. Who's going to ride in the ambulance with the injured student athlete? Because you can't send, I know, show of hands, who's parents in here? How many parents? You ain't sending mom. You better not send your kid to the hospital by themselves. And you got to meet them there. You see, so all these things are very important when it comes to these things. Who's going to make sure it's AED machines, cold water tubs, first aid equipment on the field? Like all of that is a part of emergency action plan assignment. So be very mindful of that. Okay, the emergency action plan is like a pre-snap huddle. It's like an all-pro left tackle. It works best when it gets a lot of snaps. Let me tell y'all how we even came up with the X's and O's of player safety. Anybody ever been to a Glacier football clinic? Got it. I was going to Glacier football clinic. We created this great product, and nobody at Glacier was talking safety. And I came back to my team, and I was like, man, we've invested all this money with these Glacier clinics, and we selling our cold water tubs, but nobody's talking safety. I said, all they want to talk is X's and O's. Somebody on my team came up with like, hey, why don't we come up with the X's and O's of player safety? So that's where a lot of the football references come from. Everybody needs to know what their assignment is. It should be very venue specific. As I just said, tell me your name one more time. Janadia. Janadia, guess what? That football field may have an emergency action plan, right? The baseball field may have an emergency action plan. The basketball gym has an emergency action plan. The swimming pool has an emergency action plan. The soccer field has an emergency action plan. The auditorium has a venue-specific emergency action plan. There's no cookie cutter. It's just not one size fits all. We just cannot assume that. So let's be very, very definitive in regards to your EAP. And most importantly, when they work well, they practice. We keep getting these snaps in. Practice and practice and practice. Okay, defensive safety. Coaches can make very, very poor decisions. As a parent in my case, did I blame the coach initially? Yeah, but did I blame the athletic trainer once I found? Yeah, but then when I really looked at our case from a grand scale, it was more of a systematic failure. Because again, nobody was checking the checker at a Division I college, and when I tell you everything could possibly went wrong, when they made the decision to say, hey, you know what, we're not going to practice on this field this day, we're going to practice on that field that day. Then it was construction on campus that day. Then it was something else that day. So all the time when they even made the call, they were trying to find where Jordan was at. Did they have an emergency action plan at the University of Maryland? Absolutely. Was it practice? Not at all. So where's the level of accountability, right? It wasn't, I don't see any murderers and killers in the room. However, if we make poor decisions, things can go bad really, really quick. Okay, this was a really cool video, but really what it does is talk about this one coach, and I just read it, it's the school in Texas. First day is back from Christmas break. Coach wants to have everybody do 400 push-ups. I know, right? Who thinks like that? 400 push-ups. Anybody know what happened? All the kids went to the hospital with rhabdomyolysis. So we all know, anybody don't know what rhabdo is? Got it. Basically, you've been in the gym, you done got a good one in, you ain't worked out in a while, you done pushed it, and that lactic acid build up, but we feel terrible those next couple days. 400 push-ups. I tell young people nowadays, no offense coaches, I train my son to be coachable. Coach say run through that brick wall, you run. Coach say jump off that cliff, you jump. I tell kids nowadays, if coach ain't jumped himself or herself, don't do it. Then you make your decision. And the thing is, that's just where that partnership or that culture eats strategy for breakfast, because now we're empowering our young people to the point where they can have a voice. And hold on, I just read a couple weeks ago that the same high school had a similar incident with the cheerleaders. Like, is nobody paying attention here? What's going on at this high school in Texas? All right, and most of the time, family, what I do when I come in, I hate to say it sometimes, I'm the bearer of bad news, because unfortunately we keep losing kids every summer. And I hate to say it, we're gonna lose some kids this summer. Is it anybody's fault? But our right systems in place, because just from a variety of things. It could be our four main things, and I don't want to jump ahead of myself, but that's usually what this video, like last summer, I'm gonna be honest, we got through June, we got through May, no deaths. And I got a family of parents that don't, a network of parents that don't want to be in the club of losing a child to a sports injury. Didn't lose any kids in May, didn't lose any kids in June. July went well. We all kind of like praying, fingers crossed, and August came in and we literally lost like 11 kids in the first 2 weeks. Cardiac arrest, heat stroke, concussions, brain injuries. Never fails. We're going to unfortunately lose some kids, and I'm sure my numbers or my faces will be different next year. Most people, the faces of heat-related injuries and cardiac arrest. Everybody know, if you're old enough to know, Corey Stringer, Minnesota Vikings, the first time it happened in the NFL, first and only time. You got the Corey Stringer Institute, which is one of our partners. We get a lot of good information from them statistics-wise, and obviously Jordan McNair, just because our story was very, very publicized. Leslie Noble, last year, I went to this young man's funeral. He was in Owens Mills, Maryland. Obviously, he was a big guy. We thought it was something heart-related. Unfortunately, it was heat-related. Wasn't a hot day, first day of practice. We already know. We got a big guy carrying some weight. Unfortunately, that's what it was. Autopsy said heat-related injury. Chance, cardiac arrest. Caden, Taylor, brain injury. And man, Bryce Sanfield, Heat, Obed Gomez, Heat, Calvin Dickey. I just talked to his mom yesterday. He had sickle cell, meaning in the African American community, sickle cell is a real thing, but it presents like a heat-related injury, right? So therefore, can you imagine the very first day of practice, y'all drove him to Bucknell, y'all come back to the hotel, first day of practice, now y'all get a call. Coaches were doing burpees, ups and downs, 100. Unfortunately, he went down. Punishment drills do not make sense. They often turn tragic. And Samaj, can't really remember Samaj. However, Mizell, same thing, first day of practice, heat-related injuries. Who usually gets affected by this? Your bigger guys, right? Jordan was 6'5", 300 pounds, right? Size 16 shoe. When they do too much too quick, or any kid does too much too quick, this is when these challenges usually happen. Okay, so Bronny James, now we talk about emergency action plans. Now, was it the fact that he was LeBron's son, or was it the fact that he was at a school that was prepared at USC, right? I think it's gonna go, we ain't gonna go with the nepotism aspect, we're gonna go with a school that was prepared, right? Unfortunately, he was just a notable person when he came to that. Okay, usually traumatic injuries, and like I told you, most of the things usually gonna happen are 4 H's. Heat, heart, head, hemoglobin. Heat-related injuries, heart, cardiac arrest. Hemoglobin, head, concussions and brain injuries. Hemoglobin is usually sickle cell. But know your players, especially at the youth level. Hold parents accountable in regards to medication, all that type of stuff, allergies, all this thing. We're in the space right now where sports physicals aren't as comprehensive as they should be. Kid can walk through, they get 10 minutes, and hey, they checked off, they good to go. We don't really look that deep. Again, we're not medical professionals. However, the main thing is prepare yourselves. Traumatic injuries usually occur the first few days of conditioning. When we're eager to get back in shape, we sometimes neglect to pace athletes and give them proper time to acclimatize to the rigors and demands of workouts and weather conditions. Coaches, please be aware. One of the big things I realized, at this stage, this is my second time in Valdosta in the last 3 years. It's a different type of heat down here. I'm sweating now, and I think it's AC. Y'all got Florida and Georgia mixed together, right? So again, first day of practice, let's do some walk, please. Injuries and tragedies always happen. First day, second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day. Give your kids 7 to 14 days to acclimate. I don't know, I'm maybe a tad bit older, right, than maybe everybody in the room. We were acclimated prior to even know we was being acclimated because we didn't have video games. We stayed out in the sun till the lights came on. So different type of kid nowadays, and just be very mindful for that. Most of them coming off playing video games off the couch in the first day of practice, and it's like, I was in Rockdale County, first day of practice about 3 weeks ago in Conyers, and you could tell the kids that were struggling. They were struggling. But again, our goal is to really teach kids, hey, you don't have to leave it on the field. One of the things I learned personally was, just because my son died, the University of Maryland did not stop the next season. They honored my son, took his jersey out there on the first snap, but at the end of the day, what I tell young people, the game will not stop just because something happened to you. Okay. Be aware of athletes, medical conditions, allergies, sickle cell trait. I told you it's most prevalent amongst African Americans. Anybody know what a heat-related injury is? Okay, cool. When your core body temperature goes above 140 degrees, that's the equivalent of your body being in a microwave oven. How does it usually start? Nausea, cramps, vomiting, some other signs, lightheadedness, dizziness. They may not, what I initially thought was, hey, get your student athlete to some shade and some water, some cold water, some ice on the top of their head, back of their neck, under their armpits. That instantly cools people down. But the interesting thing is you only have a certain amount of time to do that, right? 20 to 30 minutes. Don't wait to 30, go with the 20. Now, when you get the heat stroke, now you got a 20 to 30 minute window to cool the person down. When you're above that 140 degrees, temperature-wise, internally, your organs start to cook. It's the equivalent of your body being in a microwave oven. They got my son to the ER an hour and 37 minutes later with a core body temperature of 106 degrees. All the damage was done on the field. Now you see why we went from healthy kid Tuesday morning, emergency liver transplant Friday. Okay, move the athletes to a shaded area. And we got information on all this stuff, so we'll give it to you. But the easiest thing, I tell people all the time, ice, water, towels will save a life. Worst thing gonna happen to some ice, it's gonna melt. Best thing it's gonna do is save a life. Because again, heat-related injuries, they are common. They're not bad things, just when they become mismanaged, that's when they become tragic. Okay, none of my videos playing? Golly, all right. Okay, as the saying goes, the best offense is a good defense. In terms of player safety, safety knowledge is your best defense. Know the signs, symptoms, and treatment modalities for injuries that will prepare you to win when they happen. Our special teams safety playbook. The best special teams unit displays accuracy, speed, quickness, and discipline. The kicker is accurate. A good kicker rarely misses extra points and fields on the goal. The snapper is also accurate. It makes certain that the holder gets the ball when it's needed to make field goals, extra points with ease. Good punters control field position, so on and so forth. The main thing is practice your emergency action plan. And if you don't know what a successful emergency action plan looks like, how many of us saw DeMar Hamlin go down on Monday Night Football? We all saw that. That was a successful emergency action plan. Can't get no more textbook than that. One of the families I deal with, family out of Kentucky, unfortunately their son died on the soccer field, right? He went to Catholic school with the Archdiocese, and the Archdiocese was playing hardball with them. When DeMar Hamlin went down, you know, of course, this was 2 weeks before they were going to trial. You know, the week before they settled. Like, you know what, every person in America saw what this looks like successful. Is it the fact that they were at the NFL out of more resources? Absolutely. However, they're prepared. Will you get the same type of results if you're prepared? Absolutely, because what happens is statistically, it increased DeMar Hamlin's chance of survival by 50% because that 2 to 3 minute, they were right on it. So when everybody knows what to do, go to act. Practice, practice, practice. Okay, special teams. Continue. Know the signs and symptoms of heat-related injuries, sudden cardiac arrest, and concussions. If you have any type of doubt, do not send your student athlete back in the game. Nowadays, kids are, you should have heard me talking to these kids the other day. They sign their parents' names better than they do. They'll know they've been injured, right? Let's call it what it is, right? They great at it. Oh, I'm gonna still play. I'm gonna sign my mom's name. She said I can return. If there's a doubt on your side, always err on the side of caution. Ensuring everyone knows what to do in emergency. I can't say that enough. Making sure all safety equipment is within 2 to 3 minutes reach. Know where the AD machine is. Know where most of y'all have, how many of y'all have athletic trainers? Got it, okay. Work with the AT. You know who's what, what's what, where everything is. You all, especially at the high school level, most people usually have wet ball blow thermometers, not really at the youth level as much. But ice, water, and towels, I can't say that enough. Always know who has allergies. If they got whatever, they could be allergic to bee stings. Always have your team mom, especially at the youth levels, get people involved. Don't let everything just come to you. You know, because again, like I said, parents think that you all are the medical professionals. Who's gonna ride the injured athlete? Who's gonna ride the ambulance? And always practice the EAP. I guarantee you it's a 5-minute meeting before every game. To say, you got this, you got this, you got this, you got this, you got this. That's simple, but we gotta practice it, consistently. The more it's practiced, the better we are. Takeaways, coach and eat strategy for breakfast. Just create a safe place for your student athletes. Culture is built on giving your student athlete a voice. They're not getting their way all the time, but don't be afraid to give them a voice. Because guess what? That voice, that self-advocacy is gonna be their safety guide to get them through life. And the earlier that we start letting them use it, the better they're gonna be. Health healthy student athletes who are healthy mentally, emotionally, and physically win games. As I said earlier, players are a lot more smarter and educated, and most importantly, opinionated. Coach eat strategy for breakfast, create a safe space for your student athletes. Again, and listen and hear your athletes. Do not squash their voice. And thank you, everybody. Look, we got such a small crowd. Can everybody take a picture of that QR code just to kind of leave some feedback? That's really big to us because at the end of the day, our data collected and all that type of stuff really makes this engine move in regards to that. So everybody, thank you so much. Any questions? Going once, going twice. Great, thank you so much. Everybody give yourselves a round of applause. I'm just a messenger. Yes, sir.
I love what you did today. I just want to, like in this seminar, I think sometimes this seminar needs to be did to where the athletes at. Because as coaches, it's like, if you ever come to IC, because I do track and field too,
Sure.
and I'm outside of Georgia.
Okay.
And we just left one, and it's real hot.
Yep.
We have Pedialyte, Gatorade, Power, water, everything is, and we have to walk around the sun, preaching to them. So I think sometimes, other than us as coaches, other than we already coaching and fussing, so that's why I have coordinated everything, because they think, because I'm the coach,
Yep.
see, I'm gonna get you. So I need somebody else sometime to tell them that if you don't drink this, if you don't do this, this will happen to you. So I think if you come from somebody else sometime,
Yeah.
besides the coaches,
Yep.
because we can walk away. I had that happen to me in Atlanta. We walk away. What you falling out for?
Yeah.
I just spent $600 on every drink, every fruit, every snack. I mean, you know,
Right.
college.
Sure.
But you go out there and fall out. I'm trying to figure out why.
Well, nowadays, the thing is, and I agree, please take our information. I mean, this is what we do. We go around and we educate. The goal really now, we're dealing with a very, very specific demographic of talent, to say the least, right? Everybody wants to get to the next level, but really, are you willing to do what it takes in regards to your nutrition, all the things, hydration, all the things that you're talking about? Sometimes they just need to hear the story from somebody that it happened to. You know, things don't resonate until it hits our living room, then it's like, oh, okay, well, I can relate to that. And then we're in the age right now, I was just talking to Brian earlier, this is all peer-to-peer nowadays. Like, they listen to each other. I got too much gray hair, but I can tell a very, very empowering story for the most part. But again, nowadays, take our information, you let it come out and talk to your team or whatever, or anybody's team. But again, that's really the main thing. Like, you kind of got to give them if you don't do this, this is what's going to happen. And here's an example of it happening. Yep. Thank you.
Hey, all right. You had that other QR code that's up there?
Oh.
Take it down, please.
Okay.
We can also share it with you.
Yeah.
We can share with you afterwards.
Yep.
We had a
Thank you.